there, friends. Rebecca here, the Dragon Librarian from Farmington Community Library. And I want to actually talk about a couple books in this video that are related to each other in a way that I will talk about in a little bit. But the reason I want to talk about them specifically is this is a little bit of a divergent path away from discussing like the best books that I read last year, because I always spend January talking about that, and I'm going to continue talking about that. We still have a lot of books to cover. But for this video in particular, I want to talk about something that I think a lot of us go through, particularly in January, that maybe doesn't get talked about enough. So, the beginning of the year with New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, and there's all these like New Year's resolutions. If you're a person that goes online to social media, you're bombarded with like new year, new you, and like, oh, join this gym, and here's all these savings, and you eat less or diet, and you're going to make all these big changes to yourself in the new year. And that's all well and good. That's fantastic if that's a thing that you want to do. But I think a lot of people maybe start out the new year not feeling like their best selves. Maybe they don't feel like starting new projects right away or changing all these big things about themselves right away, because maybe they're battling things like mental health issues like depression or anxiety. And I think a lot of that gets sort of steamrollered over in January because of all of the like, new year, new you, oh, you have to do all these things. So I wanted to talk about a couple books that I think if you are a person like me who gets depressed this time of year really badly, I think these books might help. These are not self-help books. These are not books that are going to make your life better or improve you or, change all these things. These are books that are going to come and sit with you in the dark and hold your hand, give you a hug, and tell you, it's okay. You're okay. It's going to be okay. And I think that that is something that is really important, especially this time of year. A lot of people suffer from seasonal depression. We started winter, we're in the middle of January. Things kind of suck, right? Like, maybe not everywhere all the time, and maybe your life is great, and that's amazing, but maybe you still feel depressed about things. Maybe you get up every day and you just are struggling. And if you are struggling, obviously there's a lot of resources that can help you. But what I'm going to give you today are maybe a couple things that you wouldn't have thought of to be helpful. A couple books that, like I said, they're not going to help get rid of your depression or anxiety. They're going to make you feel seen and maybe not so alone. So the first one I want to start with is this book called Bibliophobia. And this is by Sarah Chihaya. Now, this book I wanted to read because I thought it sounded really interesting, and I didn't think too much about it when I checked it out. And then I started reading it, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is so much deeper and so much more intense and nuanced and poignant than I thought. So this is a nonfiction. Both of these books I'm going to talk about are nonfiction. And they are books, particularly this book is about a woman who lived her life through books, right? She was a writer. She had a mental breakdown, had to go into a mental hospital. And when she came out, she felt like a blank page and didn't know what to do with herself. So this is the story of her, and this is the story of how books, and specific books, helped her not get back on her feet, but helped her feel like herself again and felt like gave her life purpose again. So this is a book about a journey, life through books, particularly when you are going through really, really hard times. Now, the second book I'm going to talk about is actually a book that she mentions in this book. I was so riveted by this story, and I felt so seen and understood and heard that I immediately bought the other book that she talked about and felt that even more so. So if you are someone who looks to books for understanding, for empathy, or even just something as simple as I'm having a bad day, I want to pick up a book and feel better and read to escape a little bit. This book is really fantastic in that she talks about that journey, about the struggles and some of the things that she's gone through, and how books have helped her ultimately. Really, really good book. She's so eloquent and just gets down into the nitty gritty of things. And like I said, it made me feel really seen. And I think if you're someone who struggles with mental health or with depression or anxiety, I think that this book is going to make you feel better. Definitely. Bibliophobia. Okay. The next book is a book that she mentions in her book, and it's called Dear Friend, From My Life, I Write to You in Your Life. And it's by Yiyun Lee. And it's a very similar type of story in that this is a book about depression and suicide, and how, sometimes you just feel like you can't go on for one more day. And she talks about, this is another book about a life lived through books. She talks about the books that have helped her get through those times, and books that have helped her feel and understand what makes life worth living. This author, she's an author, she is an immigrant, she is a scientist, she's a writer, she's had many, many hats in her life. And, she struggled with depression and suicidal thoughts. And she talks about so many different books in this book that helped her through those times. Books that gave life new meaning. Books that just even, some parts of them that really, really helped her. So again, this is another one that I thought, and it's very beautifully written too. Whereas the other book is very nitty gritty, down to earth. This one definitely is a little bit more, I don't want to say whimsical, because that's definitely not the word, but it's definitely has a little bit more of a fluid sort of feeling to it, a little bit more of a dreamlike feeling to it. But both of them, Bibliophobia and Dear Friend, From My Life, I Write to You in Your Life, I think, like I said, they are similar stories in that they are stories about people who are suffering from multiple afflictions and the way that books helped them get through it. So I think, obviously, any time of year, if you're feeling that way, is a good time to read either or both of these books. I read them back to back, and they helped me immensely. But I think January is a tough time for a lot of us. And if you are the type of person who gets very overwhelmed in January by the world, maybe pick one of these books up, or pick both of these books up and give them a read, and they might make you feel a little bit better. They're not going to fix anything for you. They're not going to change your life in any way, other than they might change you a little bit. And they might give you some, in hearing about these authors' stories, might make you feel a little less alone. And sometimes that's all we need, right? Highly recommend both of these books, Bibliophobia and Dear Friend, From My Life, I Write to You in Your Life. Both of these are available from Farmington Community Library, so I highly, highly, highly recommend, if you're interested in them, to pick them up. And also, thank you so very much for watching, friends, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day.